In this year's budget, the primary focus is expected to be on sectors like infrastructure and manufacturing. To talk more on the expectations of the industry with this year's budget, I have with me Vinod Sharma, who is the CII National Committee on Electronics and IT Chairman and also MD of DEKI Electronics Limited. And we are now, in fact, in his factory. Welcome to Talking to.
Thank you very much, Himanshu, for having me here.
This year's budget comes at a time when the geopolitical uncertainty is again rising with regard to tensions between US and Iran. What are your expectations and what do you think FM should do with regard to the manufacturing space?
You're absolutely right. I don't think we've seen more uncertain times, at least in my 3 decades of manufacturing. But I do believe that it is times like this that we should be preparing for. The world today needs, more than anything else, a very robust, trusted supply chain. And I firmly believe that this is India's moment to be that option for the world. Be an alternative to China, which is a very trusted, which is a very reliable supply chain, a robust supply chain, but a more reliable and trusted chain is what India can build. And I think we need to begin to work towards it. And I hope that this budget will pave the way for it, as it has in the past.
Yeah. What needs to be done in the budget to ensure that we capitalize on this opportunity that has existed?
So I think there are 3 parts that I would say. Number one is that we have to bring down the cost of manufacturing in the country. A lot of work has happened in that area. For example, on infrastructure, we have seen a lot of work on roads, on ports, on airports. But the last mile connectivity is still missing, which means that the actual logistics cost that Honorable Minister Gadkari ji has been talking about needs to be delivered. Similarly, if you look at cost of finance, there have been some improvements, a little more to get to global levels as required. The third one is even our cost of electricity itself is very high. We still continue to subsidize electricity for everybody. And I don't think manufacturing can afford to do that if we want to be globally competitive.
So the cost of doing business has to go down. But with regard to ease of doing business, what more FM can do?
Ease of doing business, again, I think if I look at the center, if I look at the secretaries of the ministries in the government, the joint secretaries, I cannot tell you how gladdened we are with the amount of hard work that they have done in the last few years. A lot of criminality, laws have been decriminalized, a lot of changes have happened. However, when you come to a factory like this, you realize that we deal with what I would loosely call lower bureaucracy at the state level. And I think it still has to percolate down so that, again, I think in both the infrastructure and an ease of doing business, I think this budget we should focus on implementation to make sure that it is delivered to the last mile. When that begins to happen, a lot of youngsters will want to come into manufacturing. We need many more SMEs who will assist and cooperate with the larger companies so that, and that's why I mentioned that we need a reliable supply chain, not just 1 or 2 large companies, but millions of SMEs that will join this.
What is being manufactured here? We see lots of.
So this is a very, very basic component called capacitors, the film capacitors, which is a part of every electronic board circuit. And you will find now that, fortunately, DEKI has also received in the 3rd tranche of the ECMS scheme, the Electronic Component Manufacturing Scheme. So we are now going to, whatever we had invested since we were formed 40 years ago, almost twice that amount is what we are now going to invest in the next 4 years. So our confidence, thanks to a lot of policies of the central government, is that high. But now in the next 2 or 3 years, we need to work very, very closely both at the government. And I mentioned earlier a third point which remains, which is for us in the industry, we need to focus on Six Sigma quality. We need to focus on design, on our own R&D. So of course, the budget was announced, the Research, Development and Innovation Fund, for example. We are waiting for that to now get into action so that companies like us can actually participate in the innovation ecosystem that India needs to develop very quickly.
Right. So we are in this factory now where capacitors are being produced. As you can see, these are high-tech machines now, which works round the clock to produce capacitors. But there is one question I wanted to ask you about National Manufacturing Mission, which was also announced in the budget. You expect faster implementation of it now?
Exactly. So, while we all agree that our manufacturing should be 25% of our GDP, we've been stuck for too long at about 16%. So I think now the manufacturing mission, we hoped when it was announced in the budget also, is something that will ensure that our trajectory from 16 to 25% with the deeper, higher value added manufacturing happening in India, not just for India, but for the world, becomes a reality. So I think we need to take a roadmap of the next 4 or 5 years and say these are the measures that we'll take sector wise. Similarly, for example, if I look at customs duty, the effective duty on imports needs to now get stabilized. At CII, we made a demand request to the government of all the raw materials should be between 0 and 2.5%. All the intermediaries can be up to 5%, and finished goods no more than 10%. Now, that will mean that we will become a low tariff. So there is often, all of you in the media, friends, keep saying that India, we like to be protected by tariffs and non-tariffs. It's not true anymore. I think the Indian industry is now robust and strong enough in many sectors, thanks to a lot of interventions by the government and to our own experience over the years. We are now confident to face the world. But it needs to be done in a structured way. Sometimes there is a new quality control order that comes in. Sometimes there is a anti-dumping duty put on some item. Now, what that means is the effective duty of my raw material is sometimes more than the effective duty on my own capacitors, which is 0. And so those disruptions, I don't think we can afford anymore. We are medium-sized companies who are struggling to now be a champion in the world. So I think all the support that we can get through the budget and off the budget will be most welcome in making sure that we move towards Viksit Bharat.
And this idea that Viksit Bharat, I was about to ask you, all these issues and challenges needs to be addressed if we have to take that one big leap in next 22 years to become a development.
Right. Yeah, if I may say something beyond budget, but I think civil services reform is something that is required. And what I mean by that is very simple. The CEO of the Noida Authority, where this factory is located, instead of becoming a land authority, they need to become an industrial authority in the true sense, which means that their KPI of the Noida Authority would be how many industries, how much value addition, how much GST, how robust and competitive are we in each sector that operates out of Noida, how many factories are closed or open, how many more employees are being employed. I think that should be, so I would want to see their role to be that of a facilitator. For too long, they've been either a regulator, or an inspector. I think it's time now, after that many years of independence, that they become a facilitator to the business and we work together in order to be able to become the global manufacturing hub, a reliable, trusted global manufacturing hub for the whole world.
Thank you very much for talking to
Thank you,
NDTV.
Parveen.
So in DEKI Electronics Limited Manufacturing Unit with my camera colleague Arun Negi, Himanshu Shekhar for NDTV.